Good evening, everybody. It is Thursday, June 2nd, 11:25 p.m. New York time, and I just want to make a quick video regarding the biggest event risk of the week, which is non-farm payrolls, average hourly earnings coming out tomorrow morning at 8:30 Eastern Time, New York time. So just after the open of the New York session. There also is Canadian trade balance coming out at the same time, which is always problematic to watch it. Obviously, clearly the dollar news is more bigger influence, but this I wouldn't write off this Canadian dollar news either. So I'm just going to run through a few of the pairs really quick, and my overall impression, at least at this point tonight, is that the dollar news will be negative for the dollar, and that actually this Canadian news will be positive, which is in line with what they're predicting here. Um, you know, so it's not because this is the forecast, it's what the patterns look like. And that would follow the ADP number that came out today, which is kind of the precursor to non-farm payroll, did come out slightly worse than expected. But so we'll see. But you can't always go by this. But anyways, so they're expecting a small drop in average hourly earnings, which that's a major piece of this, and they're expecting a small drop in the actual employment numbers, again to sort of match what the ADP numbers were. So if this disappoints and it comes out lower, although my feeling is that this 0.2, you'd have a hard time going lower than that, but who knows if this comes out really under 0.2. That's going to be problematic for the dollar. But it's this number here, the 159, that we may see this drop. And, just going back here, we saw 160 last month. Then we go back 215, 242. We have to go back to February to see a worse showing number than that. So anyway, so we'll see. But the numbers are suggesting a downturn, and the patterns certainly are, in my opinion, right now. So Canadian trade balance are expecting a better than expected number, and I think the patterns bear that out too. So anyways, quick look at the charts. I just landed on Aussie dollar here first, so I'll just show that. I have to go out to the weekly chart here, and it looks like we may have put in a bottom here, and that at least a short-term bottom. And this looks to me like an ABC pattern setting up, and that we had the wave B here, and that we're going to move higher. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if going into the session early tomorrow that the Aussie dollar is moving down a little bit, but we'll see. We are at, let's see, I don't check a Fibonacci on this. We really went past the 61.8. So Fibonacci is great to look at, but if it doesn't line up, it doesn't line up. I don't really put a ton of weight into it. CCI here on the daily chart is suggesting this will go down again. So like I said, we may see a little push down early into the session tomorrow. But overall, on the longer term, this looks like an ABC in progress. So again, that would suggest a weak dollar. So let's go over to the Euro USD. Now we are approaching the bottom of this channel again, and also again a potential ABC pattern here. So this is the 12-hour chart. Let me zoom out a little bit here. We attempted to go up and take out this trend line here, and it was rejected and came back down. But this, to me, this still is a potential ABC pattern setting up, and that we're in wave C, and that we will break this. Also, we're at the bottom of this channel again, and we've basically put in 5 waves inside of this channel. So so I am expecting to see a nice bounce if we can get a break above this trend line, which would happen certainly with negative dollar news. We'd break, then certainly that leaves a lot of open space here to run this up. So at least potentially heading into the next major piece of dollar news, which will be the Fed rate decision announcement coming later in this month, but that gives it a lot of time to run up. So that's euro dollar. U.S. Swiss, kind of again the inverse of the euro dollar, and you can see we are running up to the top of this falling trend line here, and it looks like we have about 5 waves in place. And again, going into the session early tomorrow, I would expect that this is going to go up and try to retest this line again. But a negative dollar announcement should send this tumbling back down, again the opposite direction of the euro dollar, and plenty of room to the downside, waiting for the Fed rate decision to come and potentially change it. So we'll see. So that's how euro Swiss is looking. Excuse me, U.S. Swiss. U.S. Canadian, this is the 4-hour chart, and again, this is clearly a corrective move here, kind of walking up this line here. I'm sorry, I'm just counting waves here, and again, there's no hard set rule on this, but this clearly is setting up for potentially a break back to the downside. We have this strong move down. Now we've kind of corrected back up here. We had the and this also would be followed through if the Canadian news is positive. That would also, of course, would really hasten this move to the downside. If you get positive Canadian news and negative dollar news, that this should tumble pretty far. And on the longer term chart with the U.S. Canadian, we have this sustained down move, and that this looks to be a correction to the upside. CCI looks like a correction. I have this down arrow drawn in, or expecting that eventually it would break back to the downside. And this looks like we have a 5 waves in, which, a corrective wave is not 5 waves, but sometimes the corrections look like trends. And you could certainly label this a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then ending at 5. So even if this is a new trend, we would expect a significant correction back to the downside, if not a full return of the downtrend. So that's U.S. Canadian. The U.S. yen. This one's a little different, but again, this is one of these yen crosses, a little tougher to do. But this looks like a correction and then starting a downtrend again. So if this is going to follow the other dollar pairs, assuming that the news is negative, then we'll probably be seeing a correction into the early London session tomorrow. Into the London session, we'll see a move up, and then with the dollar news, this will roll over and continue down. So we'll see. But again, the yen crosses can be a little bit tougher because of the the idea of risk trends. So excuse me, on the cable, same thing. We've had this really significant move to the downside. This is the hourly chart, and it does look like we're potentially have hit the bottom here, and we're forming a bottom here. And this is only an hourly chart, but this is potentially a candle to push this back to the upside. So again, I think going into London tomorrow, we probably will see this kind of either moving sideways or up to sideways, and just kind of chopping around up in this range. And again, if the dollar news is negative, we should see a pretty significant jump to the upside. Keep an eye on it, and wish you guys the best of luck. Make smart decisions. Use your own judgment on these trades. Don't take them if you don't agree with me, because again, it's just my opinion, and who knows exactly how it will come out. But that's the way it's looking tonight. Alright guys, so I hope you have a great night, and if I don't talk to you, have a great weekend. Make sure you like the video. If you do like it, comment, whatever, and I appreciate it. Alright, thanks all.